Hello everyone, welcome to webinar 2, Roles and Responsibilities for an IAHA Board Member. I'm Tirritpa Ritchie. I'm a Ghana man from Adelaide, South Australia. I work as a lecturer within the University of South Australia, and I've recently started a new role as a research assistant in the South Australian South Australian Medical Health Research Institute, the Aboriginal Research Units. Thank you for joining us online. If you have any questions throughout, feel free to post them online as we are going through the webinar. It's fantastic to be able to share this with you all. This is the first time that IAHA has run this. And so we're keen to get some level of engagement to be able to provide professional development for you and to continually to grow our membership and to grow our leadership within IAHA as well. So before I go into any more detail, first off, I'd like to starting off with an acknowledgement of country. So acknowledging Ghana country, where we're meeting on where I am today, and acknowledging the various countries in which you're all meeting on and tuning in to this webinar. And like to pay our respects to ancestors past and present and acknowledge the continuing relationship that we all have with the country as Ghana people. Thank you all for tuning in again. So one of the very first things that I guess that would like to tap on, and that's what we're kind of building on from the previous webinar that you had with Kylie Stothers last week around applying for the board membership. And so covering some of the expectations and the roles that you'll be having as a board member. And so all of this is trying to prep you all for, if you're wanting to apply for the board, that you have a clear understanding of what you are what you are having to do as your responsibilities as IAHA board member. Some of those expectations, and I guess that's where we fall down a lot when we do into new things and new spaces, is our if it does fall down, it is due to some miscommunication and expectations. So wanting to be as clear and upfront with you as to what they are. And so if you're quite fortunate and lucky enough to get onto the board member, I guess I've covered some of the fantastic things that you'll be able to do, as well as trying to balance them off with some of the lifestyle adjustments and changes that you'll need to make as a board member to facilitate your role. So moving to some of those things that you'll be able to do as a board member. And so as a board member, you are not in a role or expectation that you are talking purely just for your profession. So myself as an occupational therapist, when I got onto the board, and it's made quite clear to all other board members as well, is that we're advocating not just only for our professions, but for Aboriginal health more broadly and across the professions, I guess. So when those discussions too come up, which is specific to your profession, you are there as a knowledge base, but you're not advocating just purely for your profession. And all other board members are on there specifically with that knowledge as well. Some of the work that you'll be doing, I'll tap into that a little bit, but if you are quite lucky enough to get onto the board, you'll have to be mindful that after the AGM, board members do need to stay on for an extra day to be able to have another first board meeting as it is, and that's where you do a lot of your ratifications for a lot of your new board members, introductions, clearing out the calendars for the rest of the year for board meetings or any other specific work that needs to be ongoing, financial auditing and risk assessments group, so membership for that, which is a subcommittee of the main board, which does look at all of the finances and risks to the organisation. So you can put your hand up to volunteer for that, or as a new board member, the expectation or pressure is not up on you to put your hand up to there, but if you do have the experiences or the knowledge, it is definitely welcomed and supported, and it has in the past where we've had new board members that do have that experiences and that knowledge go on to that subcommittee. And for the board members that didn't, I didn't have much knowledge and experience in that area. There was an expectation for me to go onto that subcommittee. That's one of the things that you'll have to do after, if you've been lucky enough to get onto the board. The other thing is the Aboriginality form. So we don't tend to ask it for our membership, but as this is a designated position, we will be, you will need to provide a certificate of Aboriginality form, which is something that most Aboriginal people do tend to have a copy of them. But if you are looking to apply for the board, make sure you do have an up-to-date Aboriginality form. So there's some of the things that immediately comes to mind. I know Kylie did mention in the last webinar that you would have to have a bit of a familiarity with some of the key documents. So you would have by that stage had a bit of a look at the bylaws for nomination, and having a bit of a look at the strategic plan, as well as some of the other supporting documents that are available on the IAHA website. Go to key documents and you'll have a list of some of those key documentation there. So it's not you need to know them back to front, page number, subsection, but you need to be across the board that you can have a bit of a clear image in your mind of what the documentations are referring to. You'll get an induction pack as well, which is a collated book of key documents, policies, mainly as well, to get your head around. Some of the travel policies are most important, as we'll have to travel for the majority of, unless you're based in Canberra, which the head office is located in. You'll be travelling for it. And it's just good to keep you safe around some of the OHS stuff for travelling, car hire, etc., kind of thing. Roles and responsibilities as a board member while out in public, those sort of things. So, which is fantastic. You'll get key contact lists for the office, and again, it's fantastic to go through just to be able to see some of the policy and documents, just to have a bit of an understanding of them, and you'll find that some of them will be much more applicable to you, and others you'll just have to have in the back of your head. So, which does necessarily make that transition process easier. I did find when I came in on the board, having to have all those documentation in front of me, it gave me that clear idea of how to some of the expectations, I guess, within IAHA. So again, it's not something that you do need to know in minute detail, but to have a very good understanding of it does necessarily help. And so when you do come back to another meeting, the fantastic thing is that you can, at those face-to-face meetings, being able to ask those things and ask those questions, follow-up questions. Oh, this stated this particular thing, and how does this work? So there is that opportunity definitely there, that if you are reading particular things and it's not necessarily making sense, or you just want to question, or you just want to clarify certain things, that you can always do them as well. One of the things that definitely does help as well is to have a system and a structure in place to deal with some of those practical things as well. And so making sure that you have the support of your workplace and you have the support of your family and your personal circumstances to be able to engage into this sort of work, because the expectations are there that you will be having to do the face-to-face meetings and being available for teleconference meetings, and having the availability to spend some time following up with emails and working with the IAHA secretariat in a pretty timely manner. And the fantastic and quick, easy thing that I find when, if I was running behind, to be able to get in contact with the secretariat and say, hey, I was following up on this email and this is what I was thinking, I'll just follow this up and send that in writing after. But making sure you have that continuous open conversation and dialogue as well does necessarily help. And so when you are seeing those emails coming through, the expectation there is to respond to those emails. But you're not having to write massive documents in response to those emails. It's making sure that you are engaged and keeping those dialogue open, which for a lot of the stuff I found that much of it was in it's a highly area of interest, and so if you're going to apply for the board, it's naturally going to be in your interest anyway. So I found, for me personally, seeing those emails coming through, it wasn't a matter of it was just at the time family situation and work situation was able to facilitate that. So I think getting back to those emails, there is high levels of interest for the areas in which you're looking at anyway. So you might have stuff coming through from working on cultural responsiveness, so you might have stuff working with different organisations and various stakeholders, which would be generally an area of interest. As a board member, the fantastic thing, I think, as a benefit, so we've spoken quite a bit about the expectations and being clear with what you're going to be needing to do and to provide with the board and the organisation, but you do have quite a few benefits from that as well. And I found working in the university or working in a clinic is quite often being the only Aboriginal health professional within the area. It was fantastic to be able to meet at the face-to-face meetings and be surrounded by like-minded allied health professionals and people within the area. And so I found there was that fantastic relationships and collegiality, and having that and IAHA does refer to this as the IAHA family kind of thing, is you're able to kind of as much as we were there to do work, I did find it a recharging experience in a lot of those benefits, a lot of those meetings, sorry, I should say. So going to the meetings, even though we are looking at financial reports and we are doing this, there is that lunchtime conversation, or there are even the conversations in the meetings when we are focusing on specific things where you do get that level of knowledge and expertise to be able to provide from your own point of view, but you're also getting it from some fantastic like-minded individuals around the table as well. And so it's fantastic to see. And as you go through, and so with your term, you'll find that you progress in that as well with your own comfortability in sharing that knowledge, and you'll see that from others around on the board as well. So it's fantastic for your own development because you can kind of see that happening throughout. And I know since my time from being on the board, being coming across as quite shy, to be able to engage in those conversations and having that has been a fantastic development opportunity for me, and also that recharging aspect. And so I tend to find myself 2 weeks out from a board meeting, if I'm working in a space where it's just myself as the only Aboriginal health professional in the area, looking forward to those IAHA meetings. I talked about some of the fantastic stuff that you'll be able to work on and engage in conversations. There was the specific stuff where you might get a bit more input because your knowledge might be in a specific area. And so I had an example for me, which is around the health curriculum aspect, as that was for students, because that was my area of teaching. And so being able to work on particular projects or particular, providing information or providing input to particular projects, or particular, there might be a policy document that IAHA is being asked to provide input into, and so you would have that opportunity to either work with a person from the secretariat or another member from the board and be able to providing input into that documentation, which is fantastic when you're able to work in providing input to a policy that's going to shape a particular profession's entire approach or a particular organization's service delivery, which is something that I don't necessarily think that we as individual Aboriginal health professionals do get to do on a daily basis, but you're doing it with the entire collective weight of an entire organisation behind you that is representative of all of these health professionals, right? So it's fantastic to be able to walk into a room, if you're having the face-to-face input into those policy and documentation, and to kind of say, I'm providing this on IAHA's behalf, and speaking with that level of backing, which is fantastic. And you're going back and working with IAHA and all of the other constituents and stakeholders in getting that information and providing it back to the policy or the documentation that you've asked to provide input. So you're operating in a very Aboriginal knowledges way, because you're holding your own accountability to the community, right? And you're working with an organisation to be able to do that. So, which is so fulfilling, and it's definitely a highlight of being able to work with the board. Yeah, so there's some fantastic stuff, some opportunities. I guess certain times of the year also does make I get a bit busier. So coming into when you're having and you might have all seen the fantastic work that the secretariat does do, and with help from the board, but as a board member you would be expected to put into helping out with the conference and the forum, and specific events like that as well. And so leading up to that, you would be expected to help facilitate. You might go into a scientific committee, to the scientific research committee, and so you would be proofreading or selecting the speakers, the guest speakers, the keynotes, the particular workshops for the forum or for the conference. Which is really, really fantastic in itself, and being able to see some of the great work that some of the members and stakeholders and partners are doing. And it's also being able to, well, I found this, and I'm sure quite a few others would be in a very similar situation, seeing some of the people that you absolutely love reading and that you respect so much, and to kind of see your own Aboriginal heroes up there talking, and you're like, yeah, I got to facilitate this person talking at this event. And so I've definitely gotten over my starstruckness, and I don't get it with anybody else except Aboriginal I guess what we would classify as our elected leaders or our elected role models or things like that. So getting to meet some fantastic people, and my stars, and Chelsea Bonds and Kerry Arabina and Gregory Phillips and Mick Gooder and Tom Calmer, which is fantastic. And Tom Calmer I still get starstruck with, and the board definitely does have a bit of a laugh about my starstruck relationship with Tom. But being able to be in the same room and to hear some of the stuff he says is fantastic. And yeah, so leading up with the board, you'll be leading up to the conference or the forum, you'll be expected to help out with that and to be available on the day. As much as the secretariat is there to do that work, you as a board member will be there to help and support the secretariat and to be able to deliver that work. And I found myself introducing my idol Greg Phillips, and then the next day driving a bus full of students to the airport. So getting down and doing the work and whatever you need to do to help facilitate and support that, the conference or the forums, and for the fantastic work that goes in, and the outcome of the conference and the forum is great, but it does require quite a bit of work, and you will be expected as a board member to be able to help with that. So you're doing this work, but you're also being able to be in the space and enjoy it. So it's this fantastic thing as well. So and with that space, you're there as a role model as well. And so you do have that role model expectation as well. And so being able to provide that in that space and talking with those stakeholders and various guests that we get coming to the IAHA events, and being able to facilitate those kind of conversations. And I'm a very quiet, thoughtful person, so being able to step up and to be able to host a table at an event and being able to engage in with conversations with people from all sorts of backgrounds, and the fantastic thing that I really enjoy is being able to engage with our students and the other Aboriginal allied health professionals as well, and having that opportunity, because you're looked there as that, you're looked to as that particular role model, as that particular board member, and so you are talking with people, engaging with people, and so and fielding questions and having conversations about the particular nature of the work that people are doing, the particular issues that are coming up, and so working within pediatric areas and NDIS funding, and so if I'm having conversations with other allied health professionals that I do know work in the space and they feel these particular things, it is you as that role model to be able to engage and listen, and then to be able to reports or to capture that information and being able to have it on a bigger level discussion, which IAHA does do work in NDIS and various other spaces as well. So there's that expectation as a role model, and so you do have to take that on board seriously, and being able to not necessarily engaging in behaviours that might reflect poorly on the organisation. And so going out for dinner, I'm quite conscious of how making sure that it's a safe environment, that I'm not engaging in anything that would reflect poorly upon IAHA. And so which is good in itself, because you're then able to positively, I guess, model some of these behaviours, how you would expect all your other leaderships and people to be able to portray as well. So I think that's a fantastic learning opportunity as well. I guess I took that on, and being able to have conversations with other people that you respect and as role models, and saying, hey, how do you do this, and how do you do this particular thing? So I know I definitely learned quite a bit from other board members, from other secretariat members as well, from Donna and from the other leadership as well. So yeah, so which is a fantastic thing. So there's certainly so many areas of which you can learn and progress, while also providing so much important to the organisation. So one of the other things that I wanted to mention was about the potential vacancies for this year. And so there will be 5 vacancies this year. So if you're hearing this and some of the stuff is clicking with you, or you like to find out more information, definitely do get in contact. If you're listening to the stuff that Kylie was saying, or you've been planning to take that leadership or apply to the board for a number of years, I think I knew about 2 years out that applying for the board was something that I wanted to do. And so if you are wanting to apply for the board and have been planning for quite a while, or wanting to having those discussions as well, I think this is a perfect opportunity to do it. So if you're thinking about doing it, you can put in your nomination form, and it closes on the 19th of November. You can find the nomination forms within our website. We've sent out various emails as well with them. So please make your nomination form if you are thinking about doing it. If you've previously done the nomination form and you've backed out at the last minute, hopefully you've had those conversations about why you thought that was, or why you didn't think this was that right fit for you. And if it is that right time, then you might be wanting to do that again. But you always have the opportunity to walk through a door, and if you don't like what's on the other side of the door, you can walk right back through, kind of thing. So it's in our the nomination form is in the members area on the website, by the way. So feel free to jump online and have a look if you're interested. I found personally it was a fantastic thing to do for my own growth journey and development. And I look back into my own journey, and I do situate it as when I did join in the board, and then even before that, when I got involved within IAHA. So there is so much that you do have to bring to the board, but there's also so much that you can learn and develop as well. So jump onto members' website for nomination. 19th of November, they do close, and so hopefully we will see many of you at the IAHA events in Sydney this year. So on that note, thank you, and please tune into our next webinar series, and please provide us some feedback as to how you thought these webinar series have run. Like I said at the beginning, we definitely want to get some feedback from this, as it's the first time we've run this, so we'd be very pleased to hear from you all. But thank you, and hope to see you in Sydney. Okay, bye.